Have you ever wondered what you would do if your family became stranded on an island with no way to escape? No phone signal. No food. No rescue. Just endless ocean in every direction and a jungle filled with dangers you can't even see. Every decision could mean the difference between life and death. But what this family discovered on the island was far more terrifying than hunger or wild animals. It was a secret that had trapped others before them, and it almost made sure they never left alive. Just a few days earlier, life couldn't have been more different. David Carter, a 41-year-old marine engineer, had finally taken a break from work to spend quality time with his family. His wife, Emma, had been planning this vacation for months, hoping it would be a chance for them to reconnect after years of busy schedules. Their 13-year-old son, Noah, was excited to explore the open ocean, while 9-year-old Lily couldn't stop talking about seeing dolphins for the first time. They rented a small private boat and set off across the beautiful Pacific Ocean, surrounded by clear blue water and endless sunshine. The children laughed, Emma captured every moment on her camera, and David smiled, believing this would become one of their happiest family memories. None of them realized that, in just a few hours, that perfect vacation would turn into a desperate fight for survival. Everything changed just before sunset. Without warning, the calm blue sky turned dark. Thick storm clouds rolled across the horizon, and powerful winds slammed into the boat from every direction. Within minutes, gentle waves became towering walls of water. The captain fought desperately to stay on course, but the ocean had already taken control. A massive wave crashed over the deck, knocking everyone to the ground. Lightning split the sky as the engine suddenly died. The boat spun helplessly in the violent sea. "Hold on!" David shouted as he pulled Lily into his arms, while Emma desperately reached for Noah. Then came a deafening crack. The boat slammed into a hidden reef, tearing its hull apart. Freezing water rushed inside, swallowing everything in seconds. Another enormous wave lifted the boat into the air before smashing it into pieces. Silence. When David slowly opened his eyes, warm sunlight was shining on his face. He was lying on a quiet sandy beach. His head was bleeding, and pieces of the destroyed boat were scattered along the shoreline. Panicking, he jumped to his feet and searched for his family. One by one, he found Emma, Noah, and Lily unconscious but alive. Relieved, they hugged each other, believing the worst was finally over. They were wrong. As they looked toward the dense jungle behind them, they noticed something that made their blood run cold. Fresh human footprints. They weren't theirs. None of them slept that night. The glowing eyes disappeared just before sunrise, leaving behind nothing but silence. David knew one thing for certain. Whatever had been watching them was still somewhere on the island. The next morning, he decided they couldn't stay afraid forever. Carrying a sharpened wooden spear, he carefully followed the strange footprints leading deeper into the jungle. Emma wanted to go with him, but David insisted she stay behind and protect the children. The farther he walked, the stranger the island became. The trees grew thicker, the air felt colder, and even the birds had gone silent. Then he saw something impossible. Hidden behind a wall of vines was the entrance to a large cave. Inside, the darkness slowly revealed a shocking discovery. There were old fishing nets hanging from the rocks, a broken lantern covered in rust, charred pieces of firewood, and scratched into the cave wall were 4 simple words: "Don't stay after dark." David's heart began to race. Someone had lived here before. Someone who had survived long enough to leave a warning. But where were they now? Before he could think any further, a deep growl echoed through the cave. A massive wild boar charged straight toward him. David barely had time to react. The animal slammed into him with incredible force, throwing him against the rocks. His wooden spear snapped in half, and a sharp piece of stone sliced across his leg. Bleeding heavily, David grabbed a burning branch from an old fire pit and waved it wildly. The frightened animal finally backed away before disappearing into the jungle. Breathing heavily and struggling to stand, David limped back toward the beach. When Emma saw the blood running down his leg, she knew everything had changed. Now surviving wasn't their only problem. They had just discovered that the island was hiding deadly secrets, and they had only scratched the surface. Days slowly turned into weeks. The small supply of coconuts disappeared, and the fish became harder to catch. Some days, David spent hours searching the jungle, only to return with nothing but a handful of berries. Hunger became part of their daily lives. Everyone was growing weaker. The hardest part was watching Lily. One morning, she woke up burning with a fever. Her face was pale, her lips were dry, and she no longer had the strength to leave the shelter. Emma stayed beside her day and night, gently placing cool leaves on her forehead while trying to hide the fear in her eyes. "We're going home. I promise," Emma whispered. But deep inside, she wasn't sure if that promise was true anymore. David blamed himself for bringing his family on this trip. Every night, after everyone fell asleep, he sat alone by the dying fire, staring at the endless ocean and wondering if he had already failed them. Then the island struck again. Late one afternoon, the sky turned black, and a violent tropical storm crashed onto the island. Powerful winds ripped through the trees, while heavy rain flooded the beach within minutes. Their fragile shelter shook violently before collapsing completely. The family huddled together beneath a large rock, soaked, freezing, and terrified as lightning flashed across the sky. When the storm finally passed, everything they had built was gone. Their shelter, their food, their fire, all destroyed. The next morning, David climbed a rocky cliff to search the horizon. His eyes widened. Far out at sea, a cargo ship was moving across the water. "It's a ship," he shouted. The family ran to the beach. David lit the largest signal fire he could, while Emma and the children waved pieces of bright fabric and screamed with everything they had. The smoke rose high into the sky. The ship kept getting closer. For one incredible moment, they believed they had been saved. Without slowing down, the ship changed course and disappeared beyond the horizon. Silence filled the beach. Lily quietly lowered her hand. Noah looked away, trying not to cry. Emma collapsed to her knees. And for the first time since they arrived on the island, even David began to lose hope. The next morning, David made a decision. He refused to let the island decide his family's fate. "If no one is coming to save us," he said quietly, "then we'll make sure they can't ignore us." Before sunrise, he packed the few things they had left: a broken mirror from the boat, a length of rope, and a burning torch. Ignoring the pain in his injured leg, he began climbing the highest mountain on the island. Every step was torture. Loose rocks slid beneath his feet. Sharp branches tore at his clothes. More than once, he nearly slipped off the steep cliffs. But he kept climbing. Hours later, exhausted and barely able to breathe, David finally reached the summit. For the first time since the shipwreck, he could see the entire island. The endless jungle, the white beaches, and the vast blue ocean stretching to the horizon. Then he noticed something. Far in the distance, a tiny white ship. It was moving quickly. Too quickly. This was their last chance. David gathered dry branches and piled them into the largest signal fire he had ever built. Using the broken mirror, he reflected the sunlight toward the ship while feeding the flames with palm leaves, creating thick black smoke that rose hundreds of feet into the sky. Seconds felt like hours. The ship continued forward. It didn't slow down. It didn't change direction. David's heart sank. The ship suddenly sounded its horn. Then again. It began turning toward the island. David fell to his knees, tears filling his eyes. After weeks of fighting hunger, storms, fear, and hopelessness, someone had finally seen them. The rescue ship slowly approached the island. David could hardly believe what he was seeing. For weeks, they had stared at the empty horizon, praying for someone to find them. Now, someone finally had. As the rescue team stepped onto the beach, Emma burst into tears. Noah wrapped his arms around his father, while little Lily smiled for the first time in weeks. "We're going home," David whispered. The rescuers quickly gave them food, water, and medical attention before helping them aboard the ship. As the island disappeared behind them, the family stood silently on the deck, watching the place that had nearly taken everything from them. It had tested their courage. It had broken their bodies. But it had never broken their spirit. Months later, after recovering at home, David was asked the same question everyone wanted answered. "What kept you alive?" He smiled, looked at his family, and said, "Sometimes survival isn't about strength. It's about refusing to quit, even when hope is gone." If you enjoyed this survival story and want to watch more incredible stories of courage, mystery, and survival, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next adventure. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.